Sezno. This is maybe a companion piece to my other video about the White Album, which you should check out if you have not. I'm gonna do my best to defend Revolution 9. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, Revolution 9 is top 10 Beatles songs. I wake up to that shit. But I do think it is for sure underrated and underappreciated. This is a song that you should definitely listen to more than once. And I do think that anytime you listen to the White Album all the way through, you should listen to Revolution 9 all the way through. I think Revolution 9 is fascinating. It is a song that clearly should be talked about. There's an argument to be made that it's one of the most important songs of the 20th century. But hopefully I'll kind of touch on all that. The most infamous song in the Beatles catalog. Revolution 9 was guaranteed, really, to be widely criticized from the start. Simply put, too many people were going to hear it, so therefore, too many people were realistically not going to understand it. In a way, it was doomed. But not because it's bad, which I earnestly believe that it's not, but rather because it is different. I feel the Beatles, and especially John Lennon, who is most responsible for the creation of the song, they definitely understood this. And I think this makes its release that much bolder and that much more respectable. What pop star today would have the guts to put this on their self-titled album? It is emblematic of the Beatles' deep commitment to their artistry, while being, arguably, the ultimate pop act in history. But that was always hand in hand with artistic integrity and sincere curiosity and experimentation. So Revolution 9 ought to be considered an important part of their legacy. That they even made this song, let alone presented it to their fans, to the world. So I will address some basic qualms of Revolution 9 that I can think of. It ruins an otherwise successful album. It is too long. It is structureless. It is incoherent. It is wankery, intellectual posturing, etc. It is unpleasant to listen to. Not that I can really judge anybody for having any of those takes. I can definitely understand the argument that if you were to replace Revolution 9 with Hey Jude on the White Album, them being of similar length, what results is a more coherent album. Not that that's an objective scale, but the coherence that would result makes sense. Like this sprawling album would end with the ultimate sing-along, epic song, Na Na Nas. It has this big conclusive feeling to it. And that is what would precede Goodnight for the outro. But instead, we will forever have the White Album's climactic moment be an 8-minute sound collage, like a musique concrète piece. Actually, the longest song they ever made, on the studio albums at least, which I think is hilarious. This has to be the most widely distributed piece of avant-garde music of all time. And it would be of immense historical importance for that alone. The fact that Revolution 9 sticks out so strangely is precisely what is so memorable and fantastic about it. I mentioned this in my other video, but the collage texture of Revolution 9 perfectly fits the postmodern form of the White Album, where you get endless different styles of songs arranged in what seems like a random order, with all these strange non sequiturs and fragments along the way. You can imagine the whole White Album as a collage. Like disunity and multiplicity is like the point of the album. If there was any Beatles album that warranted a Revolution 9, it would clearly be the White Album. The album where they had nothing left to prove at that point, so they repeatedly express themselves in whatever mode they want. The eclectic nature of Revolution 9's form and its content mirrors that of the entire album. It's just abstracted. It's just not a pop song. So in this sense, I think it very logically fits at the end of the album. Not that anybody would have complained if they had put Hey Jude there instead. In my opinion, as a lifelong Beatles fan, I do think the White Album is better with Revolution 9 on it. I think the White Album is a more unique work of art as a result. The fact that there's no seeming pop element to Revolution 9, that it's basically like the anti-pop track of the Beatles catalog, is a lot of why people don't take it seriously. They find it impenetrable. Some of the same people, I might add, who venerate the avant-garde qualities in a song like Tomorrow Never Knows, or A Day in the Life. The difference, though, is that you can sing along to those. The other element is obviously the length. I think it's a different discussion around Revolution 9 if it was only 2.5 minutes long. The length is probably the hardest thing to defend about it, honestly. But perhaps the length only adds to like the audacity of the song and its message. Not only the song itself, but like the gesture in putting it out. It definitely doesn't shy away. It is an intense 8 minutes of music, and you can't skip ahead on vinyl. For instance, there are other albums where you find one song that's just way too long, but in a boring way, like a time-wasting way. It's like unassuming, it's unaudacious, it's lengthy, but it doesn't leave you with strong feelings. I think about that long jam-type song on Their Satanic Majesty's Request that you kind of forget that it's on after a while. I bring that up because I don't think Revolution 9 is in this category. You can argue that it's too long, but I do not find it boring. It is there to elicit a strong reaction, and invariably it does. It's been doing so since 1968. There's like too much going on in there to listen for. People are also quick to write it off, I think, as intellectual posturing, which I think is unfair because of the band's sincere interest in avant-garde music of the time. Names that come up around Revolution 9 in terms of avant-garde influences are Edgar Varese, John Cage, Stockhausen, which is like very experimental music that is far removed from your typical Beatles fans' sphere of knowledge, and also the antithesis of pop music, but also with sincere artistic curiosity and exploration in its own right. It feels inconsistent to me for a Beatles fan to praise the influences of, say, Ravi Shankar on Within You Without You, but then write off the influence of Stockhausen in Revolution 9 and call it wankery because it's not a pop song. The creative decisions and inspiration that have come from other artists in those two songs are equally sincere. The results are just different in commercial appeal. I would like to remind the viewer that Stockhausen is one of the people on the cover of Sgt. Pepper. I also don't find Revolution 9 to be incoherent or structureless. It is obviously free form, it has to be. But having heard it a bunch of times over the years, I do find that there are moments in the song that strike me as like structural signals, like section breaks, if you will, or transitions. For instance, like the chaos that culminates towards the end in that clip of Yoko saying, "You become naked." And then immediately after that, the sounds completely change. It's like the listener has entered a different room. That is not a random meaningless gesture. There's another moment earlier on that I think is about 5 minutes in, where the song is suddenly interrupted by what's either like an audience clapping or a waterfall. This tape just takes over the track and it gets like panned all over the place. After that happens, there's a noticeable difference in the sounds and the loops. I really do think there is a structure to Revolution 9 with like climaxes and changes. It follows its own kind of vague avant-garde logic, but I do think it's moving and interesting in its own right. I would encourage somebody to listen for those. Like, I don't know, imagine a shape for Revolution 9 in your own head. I really don't think that the song is as random as people are quick to assume. I'm not going to try to provide like a broad interpretation of the subject matter of the song. You can easily research for yourself what John Lennon and others have said about the song at various points. To those who say that Revolution 9 is unpleasant to listen to, I cannot disagree completely. I find it to be a frightening piece of music. Maybe partly because it's so confusing. Its existence is confusing. The lack of a clear conclusion or a message makes it very mysterious and menacing. Like tape loops getting panned all over the place. They like start and stop and they repeat at like random points. They play at different speeds. It does sound like a bad trip. But I do also find a bit of humor in those moments where like the chaos kind of dies down a little bit and you can hear these like scattered pieces of conversation. And the things that get said are like really bizarre and strange. Onion soup. The Watusi. The twist. El Dorado. Every one of them knew that as time went by, they'd get a little bit older and a little bit slower. And my favorite, the classic, I think, is "Take this, brother. May it serve you well." I will stop here before the video gets too long. But the point is, you know, Revolution 9 doesn't deserve to get counted out. There is so much that is fascinating about that song, that it even exists. We should be happy that it exists. I'm not saying that we all need to like listen to it every day and like we all need to make music that sounds like that, but I am saying that it shouldn't be written off. And I think the reputation that it has is largely just because it happens to be by the Beatles. So yeah, thanks for watching if you got this far. Give me a follow on Instagram. Check out my merch store if you haven't. I got some cool stuff over there. And check out my EP as well. Much love to anybody supporting and watching. Means the world. Lots more videos coming. Peace be with you all.